All right, 20 minutes after 8 o'clock, the Saturday edition of the South African Morning. So it seems we've been speaking about the economic and the mental strain of lockdown, what I think feels like forever.
Absolutely, but we also have to focus on the physical health of ourselves and indeed our children and the impact that lockdown has had on that.
Yeah, many of them not being in school for the majority of this year. It means they're not getting the normal amount of exercise from school sports and physical education, though.
Let's discuss that with an expert, shall we? Physical Education Specialist Michael Mthethwa from the Stadio School of Education. He joins us via Zoom, I believe, from KZN. Michael, thank you so much for joining us. It really is something that I feel we haven't paid attention to. The many months that so many of our children spent away from school, where they have physical education classes, they have school sports that take place. Many children perhaps don't have yards to play in, and during lockdown it wasn't perhaps safe to do so, to play in the streets, and far too many of this generation perhaps spending time with their gadgets in their hands instead of doing normal everyday activities that children would normally be expected to do. In your opinion, what kind of impact has lockdown had on the physical development of our children over the last 6 or so months?
Thank you for having me on your show. I think to answer your question, lockdown has had a severe impact on the physical development of our learners. We currently know that we've currently got a pandemic. When I say a pandemic, in the physical inactivity space, young children, young learners all have highly sedentary behavior rates. And now with the impact of COVID, we've noticed trends in terms of learners actually spending much more time on the couch as opposed to moving, getting involved in your physical activity. So to answer your question in short, COVID has put a major strain on our learners' physical activity levels.
I want to talk about not just the ability now for teachers and coaches to start bringing children back into the physical exercise while they're at school as well, but it comes down to also doing it properly. If you take a look at the numbers, PT, I think as you and I knew it, yeah. Friday afternoon last period. Yeah. Didn't count as school. That was abolished in 1994, came back about 20 years later, and that takes us up to about 2013. And the reason for my question, Marcelle, is it's the quality of the physical exercise as well. There's a bit of a gap there. Are teachers and educators at school equipped to bring the very best out of children when it comes to physical activity? Gone are the days of, here's a soccer ball, go kick it around for 2 periods.
I want to answer this question in 2 parts. Some teachers have been equipped adequately, but a large portion of South African teachers are not adequately equipped to teach quality physical education. And that also falls in line with, there was also a challenge in that the PE program or the PE lesson in schools is, I would like to call it, marginalized. Many academics or teachers prefer to use that subject for other module or other subjects such as maths and sciences. So that Friday lesson that you talk about that you normally have is now in most schools been removed.
Absolutely. And I suppose now, post-lockdown, the question is, I've heard a term called low tone, that children are coming back from lockdown. The tone of their muscles has gone to a level where it shouldn't be. And normally, you would have had those extra lessons taking, the child, Johnny can miss physical education and go for a music lesson or go for extra math tutoring. But actually, physical education should now be a priority, specifically because we find ourselves in a pandemic that's attacking our health systems in so many different ways. Is there the hope, Michael, that physical education will be given the importance that it so desperately needs, especially right now?
There is hope. I do caution that when we do emphasize physical education, we must adhere to the social distancing policies that have been implemented by the national government. However, to go back to your part about the hope, yes, I think there was a lot of hope for physical education. I think the one part many parents and teachers and society in general missed was the physical literacy part. When I say physical literacy part, I think we missed a 6-month period where we could have educated ourselves as parents, educated ourselves as teachers on physical education, the importance of it, and emphasizing the impact of engaging in physical education or meaningful physical activity programs, so that when 2021 arises and the new normal comes into play, we are in a better position to understand as young children or young people why we're engaging in physical education, what is the significance of engaging in physical education for our health or in our general well-being. So I think we've missed a very important period. However, hope is not lost, I believe. There is time for teachers, parents to equip themselves with more knowledge on the importance of physical education. What are the various physical education games they can involve themselves in, or what are the various physical education games they could use? Physical education, as I've always said, is not an expensive program to implement. So in South Africa, we are fortunate. We have a history of traditional games, or what they call indigenous games, which do not cost parents a lot. Some parents actually have that knowledge to share it with their learners at this particular time. And I think it just creates a positive atmosphere for the whole family for us to engage in various physical education games, or in our case, traditional indigenous games, as we call them in South Africa.
And all part of this is going to be the formulation of some kind of plan, helping the education facilities and the educators as to how to do this. I see the World Health Organization, Michael, saying that for 5 to 17-year-olds, they're suggesting 60 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity every single day. And that almost needs to be programmed into this, we'll call it what it is, the new normal for education, hopefully from next year. Do you see that being a reality in a school? Here's an hour every day. You've got to get kids busy.
I believe that it should be a reality. Remember, you mentioned at the beginning of the interview that there was a Friday lesson. I always strive to say to teachers and HODs and principals of schools that we need more than one lesson in the school calendar per week, so that we increase that 60 minutes per week to possibly 120, so that the learners are engaging in meaningful physical education. I do believe that there is some change in society when, from a physical education point of view, we do see some trends in some schools trying to implement physical education. I think most schools have stopped because of the fear that is brought by COVID. However, as I mentioned, I think we still need to go back and implement the physical literacy part, so that when 2021 emerges, we are in a better position to say, okay, to the learner, young children, this is why we're implementing a physical education. These are the benefits that you were taught about theoretically. Now, in practical application, this is the value that it will add for you in your life.
Now, Michael, just in closing, while we were speaking to you, we're looking at pictures of kids in various activities, in swimming pools, on beautiful grassy fields and that kind of thing. We do know we live in the reality of South Africa when so many children don't have access just to even those basic facilities like a grass patch to be able to roll around in and run around in barefoot, like we all really should have the ability to do. We might have parents watching right now saying, well, the teachers at my kids' school have their hands full right now. Social distancing is a massive thing that they need to take into consideration. Children can't play with their friends like they normally do, which is also a physical activity. Any tips for parents on what they can be doing at home to ensure that they help the process of getting their kids back into the physical fitness that they really should have at their various ages?
There's two I would like to offer. I know one at the moment, a very popular one, is that everybody in South Africa, from learners to young people to children to parents, are engaging in dance, and specifically everybody's using the popular song at the moment, Jerusalem. But to go back to your point, we do live in a very challenging society. Economic means are not the same for everybody. I always emphasize the point of recycling the waste that you have. For example, your Coke bottles, your plastic bottles that you use to make shakers, to make additional resources for you to play those activities, to avoid the cost of actually going into your big stores and buying so-called expensive resources. So I would say to parents, maybe consider recycling the products that you buy, your cool drink bottles that you use. You can make shakers out of those, for example. Take the bottle, put sand in it, and put some stones in it, and then that could be used as a shaker to play one of your activities that, for example, involve dance. So there's various creative ways, but I think the recycling route would be one aspect for everybody to start.
I think it's a very clever idea. It's a way of recycling.
And just generally getting off the couch.
And getting off the couch. Go be a child again. Michael Mthethwa, thank you very much for joining us here on the South African Morning. Physical Education Specialist Lecturer at Stadio School of Education.
And a tip